Hey, how about them tops, son?
All day, SEC boys. SEC, they supposed to be SEC. Crazy all day, baby.
You're listening to the RedOut Podcast.
Hectic Hilltopper week. This is what we're going to call this episode. It's going to be a real short week this week. With the holiday, it kind of screws us up. So we're just going to really quickly kind of go through our thoughts on the Alabama Western game, and then we'll jump right into the Eastern game. First off, Matt, we will jump with you. Well, actually, let me do my thoughts real quick because I'm sure you got a lot more to talk about than I do. As my thoughts for the Alabama game was, if you wanted to make Alabama look like they should go to the national championships right now, that's what Western did on Saturday. I've been very satirical online about this game because it was just so horrendous. I mean, in the first quarter, you got 21 points. Second quarter, you got 21 more points. So you literally got 42-0 going into half. Luckily, Alabama sent their starters home and let them take a shower and go home and not have to do anything else the rest of the game. But, TJ Finley, I don't know if he just was not prepared for the environment. I don't know what was going on with the young man. I don't like to point fingers, but, when you have 2 interceptions in a game and basically the game's over at halftime, something's going on. And we didn't have a point, a touchdown, a field goal, anything. So what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people are talking about, the quarterback situation and everything. And, we've talked about that several times, so I don't want to get deep into the Caden versus TJ, but he definitely, finally seeing him in action, there were definitely concerns. One of those, we've seen enough quarterbacks to know kind of what you're looking for, especially, as a former quarterback manager. Like, there's a couple things that I'd noticed that were kind of iffy. I mean, the 2 interceptions that he had, definitely, I think, were his fault. I don't buy the hogwash that Tyson said it wasn't his fault. On the one I believe that he was saying was not his fault, he threw late over the middle, into, I guess he thought it was single coverage, and the guy made a nice play and everything, but throwing late over the middle was inadvisable, and it was into tight coverage. You're asking for trouble. So even if it's not necessarily quote unquote his fault and the guy made a great play, it's still inadvisable. And then the other one was just, he threw it straight to the guy. The guy was standing there the whole time. So what you don't want to see is a guy that's supposed to be a veteran, making kind of young guy type of mistakes. I also, especially in the beginning, I think we need to be fair too. I think he got better, heading into kind of the second quarter and a little bit later in the first, because at first he really, really looked bad. And it was more concerning. Like, he didn't have any awareness of knowing, hey, this pocket's blowing up. Maybe I need to protect the football. I need to not carry the ball like a loaf of bread. There was a time he scrambled that, he's pretty careless with it. And, the guy swipes in a different way and the ball comes out. And so some of that was concerning. But then Veltkamp comes in. He wasn't much better. He threw for 11 yards. So for those calling for TJ to be switched out for Caden, it's like, careful what you wish for. He does have a really strong arm.
Well, also to his point,
what?
A lot more in the second half too. And I know a lot of fans are like, "Oh, Tyson quit." I don't necessarily think it may have been that, but maybe they just weren't confident in Caden throwing. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, you know who Mel Mitchell is? You know who Mel Mitchell is?
Yes.
Okay. Former Western player and everything. He commented on Facebook something about that he thought that, and I might have a cat walking my camera here in a second. That'd be kind of funny. But anyway, he commented that he thought that TJ's hand might have been hurt that he was kind of like shaking his hand out or whatever. And then he didn't come back in. And so I think that rings true because it was a really odd timing. Like, obviously he wasn't that great the whole first half, but everybody was like, "Oh, thank God they benched him." But it was really odd because it was like 2 minutes left in the first half, and they came in and handed the ball off. So, and I think it makes sense that maybe he had a little injury, and that might have been why they quote unquote kind of packed it up or gave up. You know, if you got an injured quarterback, you don't want to get another one, especially when those are your two guys and there's a huge drop off from there.
Yeah.
So,
And
oh, that was interesting.
it sounds bad, but I know Caden did a really great job in the bowl game, but he's down 42 to a top 10 team, top 5 team, really. How much
Back
do we have?
before
Jake Omer, what?
do it again.
Jake Omer. That's all I'm getting.
Old Dominion is the same level as Alabama. I don't care what you say.
I'm just honestly, like, this whole thing, I was like, this is Jake Omer vibes online. That's what I'm getting from the Cadenville camp. I'm like, this is Jake Omer vibes. This is all I'm getting from people. Was there a bright spot to the game on Saturday?
I think so. I mean, honestly, like,
The stretch was good at the beginning, right?
say what?
The guy stretching at the beginning and shaking hands at the end. That was the best part, right?
Yeah, that was riveting for sure. The punter, big time positive.
Yeah.
He averaged about 45 yards. That really was a bright spot, but probably the star of the game. But I mean, honestly, I saw some things. Like people were freaking out, and I understand 63-0 is terrifying. Like, God, what if we really do suck? I mean, EKU only lost to Mississippi State 56-7, so it's like, well, are we equals? Like,
According might be so.
Yeah, but I mean, in all seriousness, I think I count up 24 points that could have swung the other way, and they just absolutely went against us. The two turnovers, they were both self-inflicted. The missed field goal, the interception that got called back for roughing the passer. In my mind, that's 24 points. There's some other stuff there too. You were inside the 30 3 times. It came away with no points. So I asked in one of my articles for Tower, I said, if you switch those points around, you add the 3 points on the board, would you have been that upset if it was 42-3?
Yeah.
Because it easily could have been. It's just like everything went wrong that made it 63-0. So everyone is freaking out that much more. But really, it doesn't matter. Like, we weren't going to win that game. So as long as they pull together and they don't fall apart because of that, and there weren't major injuries, oh well. I saw some good. There was good stuff from the offensive line. They only gave up 1 sack. The defensive line got pressure that I didn't expect at all from them. I thought they were going to be the liability on the team, but they were one of the better units on the whole team against Alabama. I think they consistently got in the backfield and caused some problems. There were moments from the secondary and whatever. I mean, there were also some moments where it's like, yeah, Alabama's just better. So, I mean, you don't know where you stand, but I saw enough positive to not be in complete freakout mode. You just don't know against Alabama. And I think Alabama, for sure, is way better than people were thinking they would be. I think they're a legit top 5 team, and they're not, like people were hoping maybe there'll be a let down or we'll have a shot at them. I don't think there was any chance, and I think they're going to end up being national championship contenders again. They looked really, really good to me and answered a lot of their issues.
I agree with that sentiment. I mean, especially we always do this at Western, and I don't know how it always works out this way, but we always end up with like a top 10 opponent. Like, I don't know what, next week or the week after we've got Boston College, but still, like, we always end up with a really good opponent, and it's very frustrating for Western fans because you want to see your team come out and do really well. However, the past few years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, whatever, we haven't done so well against FCS opponents. at the beginning of the season. So maybe we should just get smacked around by Alabama's and Ohio State's to start the year off. I don't know. But it is a little concerning. I mean, offensively and defensively, not being able to get stops, not being able to get interceptions or anything like that. And let's move over to Eastern real quick. So we're going to be playing Eastern. There's a lot of smack talk online from Coach Wells. I'm not saying specifically him, but I'm sure he's helping to stir the pot a lot. So we're going to be playing at the Houch, Pack the Houch. The ESPN intern is giving us 83.9% chance to beat EKU, which, by the way, that seems really low for us. I feel like it would be a lot higher. But I mean, I guess after the Alabama loss, they don't really know what to expect from Western.
Well, I think also EKU last year was a solid FCS program, like top 25 type of program. And so, yes, of course, it's FCS, but it's not like they're just a garbage, crap football team that doesn't have some kind of quality. Like, those guys at the FCS level can still play some football. They're just not as talented. They're not as deep. They don't have as many scholarships, all that kind of stuff. And so, I think you have some FCS teams that absolutely can compete with the group of five. So I would not just totally take EKU as a laydown. I think Western needs to have a really nice performance, blow them out, and put everybody's mind at ease and show everybody that we're who we should be. But it certainly could be close, and it's a rivalry game and all that kind of stuff. They're going to be fired up. It's their Super Bowl and all that. So better come ready to play.
East versus West. Western versus Eastern. Colonels versus Hilltoppers. I mean, and it sounds bad to you don't really know what to expect out of either team losing by double-digit points. It sounds bad, but like, what film does Eastern get? What film do we get that's going to show? I mean, at least Eastern scored, so we have something to go off of. But playing Alabama, it's like, okay, this is how you beat Western. You just beat the dog out of them. You get 85 scholarship players, and you just shove it down their throat until they're tired of talking. I mean, it is a home game at least. It's not a very far game for Eastern to travel, but it's still a toss-up as to how we're going to do. Evidently, their quarterback, Morrison.
I think it's Morrissey.
Is it? Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. Matt Morrissey. He had a 57.9% completion, 169 passing yards against I was going to say Southwest Missouri State, which is what their name used to be. It's Missouri State now. The Bears coach is Ryan Beard still the coach over there?
Yeah,
he used to be. I was going to say, yeah. So evidently he's got that team ready to roll too. But their leading rusher had 19 carries for 75 yards, and their leading receiver had 5 receptions for 40.
They played Mississippi State, bud.
Did they really?
Yeah, they did.
I saw the maroon and I just assumed. Yep, yeah. It was Mississippi State Bulldog. So,
they played another SEC team and they got
they did. And so so evidently Mississippi State's not as good as Alabama, because we got beat by 7 more points. So there's that.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard. Obviously, it's really difficult to tell. But, I mean, I just think that, Mississippi State is not remotely going to be on the same level as Alabama. Alabama's national championship contender. That'll probably be second or third in the SEC to Texas and Georgia. It'll be those 3 probably, in my opinion. I mean, from what I saw, Mississippi State is not going to be – they're going to struggle to be in the top 10 in the SEC. So totally different and a much more approachable opponent. I think if WKU played Mississippi State, they'd they'd be within 3 touchdowns or something. EKU got blown out 56-7. I mean, I don't know, and I didn't watch the game, so I mean, I can't watch. I didn't watch their game. I watched our game, but
Why not? This is your job. You're supposed to.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll watch the whole game tonight about 4 a.m. Just to show my dedication. And I will live tweet it from the towel rack and RedOut.
There we go.
So knows how I feel about it, but for now I didn't. And I mean, I think it is interesting. I mean, they did move the ball. They did somewhat complete some passes. They had, like they had a 21-yard pass play, whatever. So they had some yardage gained. Their defense was not completely dominated in every way. Obviously they gave up the 56 points, but they showed a little something. And for an FCS team against an SEC team, I mean, I think it somewhat shows their quality. That I think a lot of times you see the kind of like Western where you have 150 yards and the other team has 600.
Yeah.
EKU was able to pull out about 300 yards of offense and held Mississippi State to 450, which is respectable. They just kind of gave up some big plays because of the talent disparity. So
yeah,
I would sleep on the Colonels for sure.
That's a tough game to go into it. I mean, playing against Mississippi State, not Missouri State. But like you said, I mean, quarterback threw for 169 yards. They had 126 passing or rushing yards. The quarterback, evidently, he got sacked several times because he has negative 20 rushing yards. So we're going to have to look up the stats for the rush or for the quarterback sacks there.
It showed that they gave up 2.
Yeah, he had a fumble. You said he had 2 sacks. Good Lord, how far did he run back to get sacked? Lord, you're like, oh my God, I'm in trouble. Let me just run straight backwards.
Maybe he had designed rushes for another loss of 10 because it looks like the sacks were for a total of 10 yards.
Okay.
So yeah, sometimes like they're not going to count if he immediately did a draw and got killed. That's not a sack. So
yeah, maybe that's what it was. But yeah, I mean, Mississippi State, basically did what they were going to go do. Marcus Cowwise for Eastern is somebody to watch. He had 5 receptions for 45 yards. And they're all nothing. None of their passing plays were over 22 yards. One of them was for 21 was the longest.
Yeah.
So I mean, Wells was an offensive line coach here at Western, so I'm guessing he's more of a ground and pound, couple pass plays here and there. Let's keep it simple or whatever. But I'm sure he's got his guys ready to go for Saturday against Western. And if you don't bring your A game, you could lose this. We've seen in the past how Eastern comes in. If I'm not mistaken, what was it? Was it Sanford or Tyson Helton's like first or second year? We played Eastern and we almost lost it. Wasn't it like 17-14 or some ridiculous score? It was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think that was Sanford.
I think you're
2017. Yeah. Let me pull it up here. Let's see.
I'll pull it quick. But while we're talking about there is a great Netflix documentary on it's the Untold Stories talking about sports.
Mm-hmm.
It is talking about the 2023 Michigan scandal with the sign stealing.
Oh,
that is good, dude. It was really good. I watched that last night and I was enthralled the entire time. I mean, everybody heard the story, and I mean, you watch it, you heard it, you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. It's like, who is this guy? Whatever, but then you kind of see the backstory of it and like how smart this dude really was. I've got 2017 Western won 31-17 against Eastern.
Yep. I just found that too. You know, I was looking at last year's stats because obviously you can't really tell anything by this year because there's one game, played an SEC opponent and got murdered. So kind of hard to tell. But last year,
Yeah.
it looks like they had a pretty good offense, but they just couldn't stop anybody. They gave up 3,400 yards passing, 1,800 yards rushing. So I mean, that's given up 400 plus a game. So I think there's your issue.
Yeah.
Is they struggled defensively, but last year offensively, they certainly could run the ball. They had only 3 games where they had less than 100 yards, which I can't remember how often WKU struggled to get 100, but I know under Helton, sometimes it's a struggle to find some rushing yards, and a lot of that's air raid, but still, they definitely probably will be able to run the ball. I think Western last year really struggled to stop the run, so I would say watch out for that. I do feel better about the defensive line though. I really do. For WKU. So I guess we'll see how it pans out.
Yeah.
But they showed me a little something, and I was fairly impressed with them. Given I had a lot of question marks on the D line in my estimation. It was nice. It's nice to see.
So, final thoughts. What is your prediction for the game on Saturday?
Yeah. I think we'll see. I think Western will win. And I think EKU could keep it close for a while, but I do feel pretty good. You know, I know that the 63-0 was terrifying and everybody's freaking out. I think we'll be fine. I think it'll end up being a laugher. The offense will look great, but then some people might give up a couple scores. I think it's tough to keep, as a group of 5 team, to keep people from scoring some points. So I'll say I think Western pulls away in the second half, 48-14.
I was going to say it was a little closer. I was going to 5-14. I think I kind of agree with you. I think this is going to be our South Florida from last year, hopefully. And I'm hoping that, Western can come in, kind of work out the hiccups, get things rolling, and show everybody, hey, that was an Alabama game. That was, we were drunk. Don't worry about that one. We're just going into this one. That one's in the past. We're moving forward, and that's what you have to do week in and week out. You just gotta, you have the big loss like that, just leave it and move on to the next one, and play your best ball you can. And I think Western, especially at home, hopefully fans see that game at Alabama and just say, we got paid, between 1.9 and 1.7 million. Let's just write it off. We got a check. And let's go into this season with a positive outlook and, do well. At least that's my hope for Western. 35-14, and you're saying 48?
14. Yeah.
Those are both, I think those would be very doable. So it would be interesting to see what Vegas puts on it, but we will be back next week. We'll have a lot longer episode. We'll have a lot more to talk about, and we will be seeing you all then, but we wanted to at least have some form of an episode this week. So we appreciate you all. Check out our sponsors. I'll put them at the end here. And as always, guys, go Tops.
Go Tops.
So like a lot of you, I get those annoying phone calls, the Medicare, but the real wake-up call for me was when I ordered 2 computers from Amazon. But I didn't order 2 computers from Amazon, you say. Oh, somebody else did. Yeah, that was a close call for me. I realized that my personal information was out there, and I was vulnerable. But how are so many people able to get a hold of my information? One reason might be irresponsible companies. For example, AT&T revealed that over 73 million customer records, both former and existing, were exposed on the dark web. They recommended those affected use strong passwords, monitor account activity, and consider credit freezes or fraud alerts from credit bureaus. That's a lot of work for us to do because one company couldn't keep their data safe.
This is why I use Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura does all of this for me, and best of all, it's all in one app. If my info was compromised in the AT&T data breach, I wouldn't worry because Aura would already be protecting me. Don't sacrifice your privacy because it's a chore to keep up with it. Aura makes it easy. Aura is always on, doing the hard work of keeping my information safe. I value my privacy, and so should you. You guys should check out Aura. You can go to aura.com/RedOut, or that link is in the description below to start your free trial. Thanks to Aura for sponsoring today's video, and let's get back to that Hilltopper action.